Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well today. We're in our second session of our faculty track. And here in just a moment, we're going to be talking about just DQ strategies. I'm going to put our bit.ly link in the chat box so that you can go ahead and click on that link and get your certificate. Feel free to use the chat to talk with others and your peers. And also, we're going to take questions if you have them at the end.
Did you see the chat there from Rosalind?
Yeah, they are supposed to. It may be that the one in that one may have gone to the to a different link. These are all set up specifically for the actual respective session. So we can look at that. And in worst case scenario too, Rosalind, we can email you out the correct link too. So I'll make a note of that here. Well, I'd like to get started, and I want to introduce Dr. Wayne Schmidt, and I'm excited about what he has to share concerning DQ strategies.
Well, thanks a lot, and welcome everybody. I know this is the last session, so I'm going to try and be efficient and kind of get through things rapidly. I know that the Bitling or whatever the Bitly was put up. I've got it in here. If anybody didn't get it one way or another, I've got it here, and I've got it at the end of the presentation as well. I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to ask a question. And if you'd like, you can put it in the chat. If not, just kind of keep it to yourself for a second, okay? What dissertation skill or skills do you focus on developing when you're looking at and grading DQs? What dissertation strategy are you looking to develop when you are looking at and grading DQs?
Rosalind answered in response and said argumentative writing and support.
Okay.
Jeff responded with structure and synthesis.
Good. And you know what? I bet if I were to ask you something like, do you like having DQs as part of it? Most people would say, okay, fine. It's okay, but boy, it sure gets tedious after a while. And talk to learners and you get about the same response. They're okay, but it seems like there's always a DQ. You know, Monday and Saturday, I've got a DQ to do. It seems like no sooner do I finish with one, I need to start on the other. So they can get repetitive and they can get tedious and they just can. So my reason for starting off with the question is, if you have a strategy around which you are grading and looking at DQs, it gives DQs some additional meaning. Now, I would encourage you, if you have a strategy, share that strategy with your students. Pull them into the loop and go, this is the reason you have to do DQs. It is also one of the reasons that one of the things that I will be looking for when I grade your DQs. It helps students then to go, okay, Rosalind, to use your answer, I want to see a good argument and I want to see good support for your argument. Okay, good. Now I've got something to do. Jeff, yours, I want to see structure. I want to see synthesis. Okay, then the students then can craft that, but be obvious with them at the very beginning. I'm not going to use myself as an example a lot, but I have a whole announcements around which I say, this is what I'm looking for at when I do DQs. And so this is how you should structure them. But I find that helps. If you don't have a strategy around which you're doing DQs, I would encourage you to develop one. It will help you to get some additional meaning out of a lot of DQs that you have to do. Now, let's just kind of go over and go for most. This is going to be review, so I will do it rather quickly. DQs get 30 points per module. There are 12 points for each of the 2 initial posts and then 18 participation points. So that's 30. If you do the arithmetic, 30 points a week times 8 weeks, that's 240 total points for DQs. There are 1,000 points in a class. That means that, give or take, without being too far off, DQs are worth 25% of the grade. So they should probably be worth about 25% of the time and 25% of the effort then that students put in. So you guys know, and you probably, it's just refresher, there are initial posts and then there are ongoing posts. Let's look at the ongoing posts. Those are the participation posts. Students need to do 3 of those in every module. 3. Now, sometimes instructors get a little bit confused on this. Those ongoing posts need to be 150 to 250 words long. We are not looking for a 5-page treatise as an answer to a DQ. 150 to 250 words long. They need to support the argument. They need to have a scholarly reference is not required, but it's highly encouraged. If you would like to make a scholarly reference required, you certainly can do that. I do in mine. All follow-up posts to be considered substantive must have a scholarly reference. The post also needs to contribute to the discussion. You guys know some of the tricks that students are going to do. I find students, copying and pasting, hey, I really liked how you said, and then they copy 5 lines after. It's a great point and expect that now to be substantive. Okay, it needs to contribute to the discussion. Okay, so there are a total of 5 posts, the 2 initial posts, and the 3 ongoing posts done on a minimum of 3 separate days. Okay, that becomes fairly, sometimes learners like to go in and do all of their posts in one day. That should be a deduction. If they do, they need to be in the discussion on 3 separate days. Now let's take a look at those initial posts. Again, they need to be 150 to 250 words long, somewhere within that length. And again, scholarly reference is encouraged, but it's not required. But if you want to require it, you certainly can. The other thing, the reference, I would encourage you to have your students look beyond the course material, that their scholarly reference needs to be not from the readings and not just from the textbook. Because one of the things I'm trying to get out of DQs, I want students to learn how to get in and use the library. So they need to learn how to do a search. They need how to, scan get the studies so they can figure out how does this support my argument, Rosalyn, kind of going back to your point, but I want them in the library. So they need to have a reference that is beyond the readings, whether it's just the readings or the textbook, both. They need to get outside of course material. Then the reference, this is a critical piece here, that last sentence. Supporting reference should support an opinion rather than provide the opinion. Learners like doing that a lot. So-and-so said this, and that's why I believe, no, they need to provide their opinion and then give support from the research. Okay, now, the next slide here, I want to dive into the discussion forum policy. This is in the pathway, it's in the course materials, and the students can get to this, but I have highlighted a couple of things that are very, very important for students to remember. First of all, the 150 to 250 words long. But now that second piece that I put in yellow is really important for learners. Rather than just reporting what someone else has stated, doctoral learners should demonstrate application and/or reflection of knowledge such that the learner enhances the meaning of the referenced material. Merely posting 9 sentences in which there are 8 citations does not demonstrate a reflection and an application of knowledge. This is the other piece I would encourage you to get students to do. They need to add to the discussion by supporting it with something new around which that they have discovered that is supported with research. Jeff, this is where you start getting into, you had, I believe, application and synthesis. This is that synthesis piece. And you have every right to look at this and say, you've got 6 references in here and only 1 sentence of your own ideas. This is not a scholarly application, and that would not be a substantive post. Or if they do that in the initial post, excuse me, you certainly are within your realm to take off a couple of points and give them 4 points out of 6. This does not demonstrate reflection and or application of knowledge into the situation. I find learners often let their references do their talking for them rather than doing their talking and let the references support what they're saying. But you then can refer them back to the dissertation forum policy, which is in the path, I believe it is, in the course materials up there. So it's there. It is in every one of their classes. You can refer to it. You can post it in your welcome announcement. You can highlight that sentence so they know this is something I'm going to be looking for. So be conscious about what you're doing. They need to spend some time thinking and reflecting. Curtis, I'm seeing some kind of chats coming in. Are there any questions to be looked at here that might be worth it? Let's see, Rosen, get on their case if suddenly everyone's using the same shores. Agreed entirely. Okay. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to say, look, this is the 7th time I've seen this. Learners do that. In fact, I've had learners admit that they wait with making their initial post until 4 or 5 other people have, read the first group of posts, get an idea what they're supposed to do, and then just kind of copy references and go from there. Do we have them use APA 7 in the references? Loretta, the answer to that is yes. The university has made the transition to APA 7. However, there's a caveat on that. Don't come crashing down on this and take 4 points away because they have an APA 7 mistake. I would certainly maybe give a warning at the beginning and then come along and say, okay, look, I warned you, you're keeping going with this. That's the nice thing about the initial post is you can give a half a point deduction. Okay, that's a half a point deduction. If I do it again, it's a full point. You have every right, you certainly can do that, but allow students to ease into that transition from APA 6 to APA 7. Personally, I'm having a tough time myself. I'd find myself going back to APA 6, and so we need to allow students that same kind of latitude with that. Okay, so what are some things that students can receive deductions for? If they don't make initial posts or follow-up posts, you certainly have every right to make a deduction. If they only have 2 follow-up posts, that would probably be a 6-point deduction in the participation points. If they don't make a post, that certainly is, if they don't make an initial post, they get a 0 instead of 6. They don't make 2 this posts are not substantive. In the initial post, I start off with usually about 1.5 points off. Okay, they get 4.5 points if they make a post, but they don't have a reference, or they have too many references, or they don't have any of their own thoughts or something like that. That's usually 1.5 points, maybe 2 points. Okay, that's kind of what I do. The learner does not make 2 substantive posts. Remember, each of their 3 follow-up posts are worth 6 points because there are 18 points possible per participation. So that means each of those three follow-up posts is worth 6 points. Initial points are posted late. I follow the GCU policy and take 10% off. So a late post is a 0.6 deduction. So instead of getting 6 points, they get 5.4. Learner does not answer the question. This is a critical one for students, okay? They want to beat around the bush and don't answer the question, okay? Please require them to answer the question. If the DQ post is something like, do you believe in such and such and so, question mark, why? The first word in the answer needs to be either yes or no. That's the question. Students want to jump right in and give their support without ever making their claim in the answer to the question. Be sure they answer the question. Answer the question, then give your support. That would be another deduction. I read your post several times. I did not see an answer to the question. That would be a deduction. Further initial or follow-up posts do not initiate or further discussion or go off somebody thinks I got 150 words here with the reference. That must be substantive. Not necessarily. You didn't follow you didn't do anything to contribute to the discussion. That's not substantive. And then posts are not made on 3 separate days. Students need to be in the forum contributing on 3 separate days. In Loudcloud, fortunately, that's very easy to see. Did they make contributions on those 3 separate days? Jeff said, using a rubric is a great way to be clear with expectations. Great idea. You can come up with your own rubric for this, post it in your welcome announcements, bang. Now it adds some clarity. In reference to the 3 follow-up posts, should these be distributed in DQ1 and DQ2? Marlene, that's a great question. There is nothing in the policy that says it needs to be. It's certainly to be encouraged, but there's nothing that says it has to be. They can make all of their follow-up posts in DQ1 or in DQ2, as long as they do it on those 3 separate days. That's the way the policy is written. Rosen, I found providing feedback on things in the DQ forum more effective than private emails. Agree with you 100%. That way everyone learns from the feedback. I agree with that. Okay, I agree. And a follow-up post is going, this would be a good time for everyone to look. This is an example of a good post that used references in a good way to support claims. Good suggestion. Okay, now let's look at some grading options. We struggled with this as a college for a while. Okay, and finally we all agreed doctoral level writing is essential in every post. Okay, the level of writing in DQs should be equal to the expectations of what the writing is in the essays and in whatever they're submitting to you. Doctoral level writing is essential. Let learners know if they're not meeting expectations. This is not doctoral level writing. I looked at your essay. You've got 9 grammar errors and 4 spelling errors. This is not writing at a doctoral level. You're going to have to pick it up here. Formatting. Guys, you guys know that the discussion forum is not favorable to APA. Okay, you can't do a hanging indent in a discussion forum. So it's not fair to hold them to that, but it is fair to hold them to the contents. They can put things in the right order, okay, so that maybe the italics don't work, maybe they do, sometimes they don't, but things need to be in the right order. Page numbers need to be included if there's a direct quote. Those kind of things are reasonable expectations. I agree, and good posts are not indicators of a substantive post. Be real cautious of that. I agree with you. And they can kill a lot of things. I say in my initial thing, I do not count repeating what the other person said in your word count. Those aren't your words. Recent journal articles from the US should be the expectations, not textbooks or other non-academic sources. If you would like to, it takes a little more time on your part. You have every right to expect empirical articles. You can expect an empirical article if you're willing to look it up and find out, is it empirical or not? You can just spot check those things, but that's up to you. I'm a big one on research from the US. If you use foreign research, you've got to provide research to link that foreign research to situations in the United States. Otherwise, why bother? It really does not much good to know what's going on in Malaysia or South Africa. It just doesn't. So let's apply that to situations here in the US. Okay. By the way, it's a good idea to do that because they're going to have to do it when they're doing their dissertation references. So get them used to looking at research done in the US. Okay. Rosalind, I always use and this also lets them know it, was counted as a substantive post. That's right. They do get that trophy, shows up by substantive posts, so they can follow what was there. And learners are able to see the trophy in the main part of the discussion forum. So they can look at a post and go, this was substantive and this was not. Okay, here's some grading examples. I took 1 point out because you used a direct quote and did not cite it properly. You did not include page numbers as need to be included in a direct quote. Get them used to those things. You can certainly hold them accountable for it. I took 2 points off because you did not include a text citation or reference, or the text citation or the reference was from course material and there was nothing else. That's a 1.5 or 2 point deduction, whatever you decide. Several grammar errors in your posts that include subject-verb agreement, spelling, things like that. Therefore, I took off 0.75, or I took off a 1.5, or a point, whatever you decide. Your post was cursory and did not answer the DQ question. I did not see an answer to the question. It goes back to what I said a little bit ago. Always be sure that learners are answering the question. Okay, DQs can be a valuable learning tool for students. Establish what you want them to do and then grade according to that, what you're trying to get DQs to do. Synthesis is a good piece. Support is good. Using the library is good. All of those are good overarching theories or philosophies or things that you want DQs to do. They are valuable. Always keep in mind they're 240 points. They're a quarter of the grade. So if learners are to be spending about 20 hours a week doing doctoral work, they should be spending about 5 hours doing their DQs. And so grade according to that idea that these DQs should be taking about 5 hours. That's about an hour per DQ post. Hold them to that. This is not scholarly writing. It isn't scholarly thought. This is not therefore a substantive post. Okay, so it's worth a quarter of the grade. I think those kind of things will help learners kind of step up and improve their posts. I think they kind of get lazy about things because I've gotten 18 points every week from all my instructors. And so I guess I'm going to get that from you too. And you can just kind of make it clear, no, you're not. You're going to have to step it up here. So I hope that helps. Let me see if there are any chats or any comments, questions that I can do. Let's see here. I've had students later in the program come back and say, thank you for insisting on the writing component, the support for DQs. Agreed. I've had the same thing, Rosa, and coming back going, I hated you for taking out points for DQs, but I know what you were doing because when I got in the dissertation, I had to do it then. Valuable lesson. So anyway, Roland, thank you for the kind words. I hope you found this useful. If you would like, are we going to post all of these PowerPoints?
Yes, we'll post the actual presentation as it's being recorded, and then we'll also have a link for your PowerPoint as well. So we'll provide both of those resources.
Good. Curtis, thank you for your help in this. And by the way, I said I had it one more time, and I don't want to let you think that I don't. There's the bit.ly if you want it. It'll be in the, it will be in the PowerPoint that you'll be able to get when this is all over. Thank you, everybody. Hope you had it. I hope this whole day was a valuable experience for you. And if you get a chance, don't just thank the presenters, thank Marlene and thank Curtis. They did yeoman's work in this. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes here, and they did a lot of work. So Curtis, thank you. I'll thank Marlene later. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, Wayne. It's our pleasure to serve, and thank you for attending and for the great comments and questions. We do have one more session, actually, the research tools from our reference manager in our GCU library.
Okay.
And can tie right into resources we have here. So that will be the third and last one for our faculty track. So I hope to see all of you there. Take care. Thank you again, Wayne.
So long, everybody.